Gig Gab, episode 416 for Monday, February 12th, National Lost Penny Day 2024. Greetings, folks, and welcome back to Gig Gab, the show by, for, and about working musicians here in Durham, New Hampshire. I'm Dave Hamilton, and today my co-host is none other than one of our favorites, Mike Schulte. Thanks for coming back.
I get to be a co-host officially.
You're a guest co-host. Yes. That's the way I think co-host. About this.
It's like a player coach. I used to watch indoor soccer in St. Louis, and like where the coach is also a player.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, fine, whatever.
I guess it's more that I think about this is you're a guest co-host as opposed to someone that I am interviewing on the show, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like because it's a different vibe. We're having a conversation, and it's a conversation that's kind of just ongoing. And we just go. Yeah.
A 4-part series.
and the text trail keeps on going in between the episodes. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me again. It's always a pleasure to be here.
No, it's great. I love having you, and everybody loves having you. I get lots of nice comments from folks about you, and I don't share the ones where they tell me, never have that guy on again. So.
Those are the ones I want to hear. I love negative feedback.
I know you do. You thrive on it. It's great.
Have you seen what I once a month, I just like to... It like feeds my soul if I can just get into like the CBC group and I can just post something that just kind of trolls. It just like as the comments like pile up, it just makes me, I don't know, I just feel good about myself. So I love it. You like to feed the trolls. You don't like to feed the trolls. You like to be the troll. I'm being the troll by pretending that I'm not the troll. It's a weird game, but it's, man, today I said something. I ranked my top 10 Super Bowl halftime performances, and on purpose, I put all the ones that people in that group would not like at the beginning. I put Prince at number 7. Oh my God. Prince is number 1, blah. And so, I needed to pick me up today. It's been a long couple weeks, so that gave me everything I needed.
That's okay. So you thrive on the conflict of that.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Well, better to do it there on social media where it's expected. I don't want to say it's accepted or good, but it is expected. Better to do it there than say at home or something, right? Like you get to be like, you get to get it all out there, and then you're nice with your family and your kid and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the way to do it.
That's the way to do it. You're not trolling your band. Like you get along well with everybody in your band, I assume.
Where I come from, like it's a term of endearment, like making fun of someone that you love and you're friends with. So we give each other a lot of crap in our band at all times, and it's just a term of endearment. If somebody's not making fun of you, like, something's wrong.
Then it's
There's
serious.
A disconnect here. What happened?
Yeah. No, that's good. That. Whatever that dynamic is that you have in your, everybody has in their band, like that, it's a special thing. And it's interesting when people like outside of the band get a glimpse at that and don't understand it. I mean, those of us who are musicians, we see a band doing that and it's like, oh, I identify this, right? And sometimes you can even sort of, immerse yourself in it enough temporarily to participate at the right level. But a lot of people are like, "What's going on there? Are those guys okay?" It's like, oh yeah.
We have it out. I've said it before. The Pork Tornadoes are 4 of the best friends you will ever meet that are lucky enough to have found each other to be able to create what we've created. Because I don't think we could have done it without being as close of friends as we are. But we have it out on some stuff. I mean, especially this upcoming year is going to be probably our biggest and most demanding year, and we've got some stuff that I can't say that's maybe going to be happening that might even cause even more of a dynamic. And so every show we have a closed door, sit down, knock them, drag them out conversation that we can't have these talks on text messages. I mean, I know that everybody's got their Slack threads and their texts, but sometimes you have to be in the same room and you have to have these I've been feeling this way. We need to be worried about this. And then you have that 30-minute conversation, and then everything's great. And so we make it a point to pretty much after sound check, every show, we have a meeting with our front of house and our roadies and our techs and say, here's what's expected for today. And then we say, leave the room. We've got some conversations to have, and door shuts. And then we're good to go. But that's the disadvantage of us not living in the same town and never practicing. So we kind of have to do those on show days. You know what I mean?
But like, regardless of when your band has the opportunity to do that, I think this is really healthy and helpful because, as people have heard me repeat on the show many times, I love Timothy B. Schmidt's comment in that Eagles documentary where he says every band is on the verge of breaking up at all times. Yes. Right. And there's truth to that.
My God.
Right. But like having almost scheduling, it sounds like you guys do, scheduling, creating a place where that it's safe to have these conversations helps mitigate and sort of stave off the eventual breakup of the band, right? Like, every band is going to break up at some point for one reason or another. I mean, if it's, we've seen it when members pass away like that, that's the ultimate one, but it often happens earlier than that. That's usually not the reason. So, I think you're really smart to do that. How did that, I want to pull on this thread a little, like how did this happen organically and now you just sort of do it? Or did somebody say, hey, wait, we got to talk about this?
Yeah, it's been it's been ongoing, where back in the day we did used to try to get together and rehearse, and then life comes at you and people move further away. We all used to be in the same town at one point.
Got it. Okay.
Now that's no longer. And as the scale of shows get bigger, as the money involved gets bigger, as the amount of people who are going to benefit or negatively benefit from whatever happens at your upcoming shows begins to increase, you got to have those conversations. We've all been there on those text threads where maybe somebody gets busy and we're in the middle of this conversation and you think you pissed somebody off, or you think they're really mad and they're like, no, I just actually had to go. I was at the dentist. Like I couldn't read my phone,
Dude.
So yeah, we're really bad. Like we know each other so well that we know how to push each other's buttons on text messages. And it's just like, we had a very knockdown, drag them out fight a couple years ago that we're like, dudes, we gotta we all love each other. We want this to last forever, and we never want this to ever be a thing. Let's have honest conversations about things. And that's why bands are so much, for nobody that's been in a band, it's like take your relationship with your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, and then multiply it by 3, 4, 5, 6, however many members you have in the band, because you're
simultaneously.
Yes, you're having a relationship with each member plus the benefit of the whole group.
The collective.
The collective.
It's 3D chess, man. Oh. Like it's Yep.
And you learn, and the longer you're in a band, you learn where you need to push, where you need to pull, what right away. If you have an idea that you're like, they're all going to hate this, then why even bring it up? Like, why are we wasting time on this? They're not going to want to cover this song. I'm not even going to tell them that I've already put the work in to try to see if they'll love it. Let's just not even do this.
Yep. No, this is really smart. I mean, everybody who is in a marriage long enough starts to say, relationships take work, right? I mean, it's because it's true, and you figure it out one way or another, it seems, right? Well, one outcome or another, but you figure it out that you gotta put the work in, and of course the same is true with a band, and then you add the creative element. I mean, I always thought it was weird, like when I was in high school. I was in bands, just starting to play in bands, and I was also starting to date and had a serious girlfriend. I always thought it was weird that she wasn't jealous about the band, because it was like, this is just as intimate a thing, if not more intimate than our relationship. I know she would be upset if I was like, hanging out with other girls. Like,
but people that haven't been in bands don't understand.
They don't know.
Oh, you just get up with your friends and play music. It's like, I wish it was that easy.
I wish it was that easy. Yeah, exactly.
What do we do? How did we get to this point? I never knew this was a thing.
Yeah. So yeah, it's true. But that's really smart to just have it, as part of the schedule, regardless of where it is. I mean, you guys have found the right spot in your dynamic, but carving that out, I think, is really important. And avoiding the hard conversations via text.
Ugh.
I mentioned that the wedding band that I have played in the past, for the past, whatever, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it is not happening. And there are a variety of reasons for it. The scheduling really was, I talked on the show about how, trying to coordinate everybody's schedules. The band played for a while, then COVID happened, and it didn't start playing right away after COVID. It was basically last year was when things started to pick back up. But everybody else in the band, our band leader didn't play any other gigs, but everybody else in the band kind of started finding things to fill our schedules and our time. And then he started to push to get the band back together, and we played some gigs, but he got really frustrated that people had other things. And so that was the stated reason for this. But there was a text fight that happened, and there's no reason to point it at anybody out, but it was like, I can look at that fight and be like, okay, this happened 3 weeks before there was a gig that he tried to book that 2 people weren't available for, and he threw in the towel. It all adds up together. Yeah. And that text fight was definitely the reason this band does not play anymore.
Well, I guarantee some of your listeners are like me. I'm I don't know, a little more just I come up with all these ideas, and I just think things are going to be great. And sometimes I don't think through what it actually means to come up with this great idea and then to implement it. And so a lot of times, and I can admit this, I need to, before I put work into something, these guys, I think it's a no brainer. Oh, gosh, we should do this. Yeah, totally. But they can think on different wavelengths. Yes. And be like, no, hold on. You haven't thought about this. You're getting too excited. Wait. So, and vice versa too, I can talk one of them into something that maybe they don't think is logistically possible. I go, no, we can do this. So you have so many, I hope you don't have a band full of the same personality of people, because it just doesn't work that way. That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It's bad. I've been in bands with people who are enough no 2 people are exactly the same,
yeah, of course,
but who have who are similar to me, and it's like I've blown up bands because of that.
Yes.
For sure, 100% my fault, absolutely. I've learned to recognize when this happens, and it's like, oh, yep, no, we just got to breathe right now. That it's okay, but we don't all need to be like right and yelling at the same time. Like,
well, it just brings it up. I just, every time we play a show or I think about what the Pork Tornadoes have done, like, I'm just so unbelievably grateful for how we landed in this position to have these 4 people. Yeah. And it wasn't always like this. Like I've told you before, I wasn't the original drummer. Jerry, the keyboard guy, was the last to join, but Mason and Corey were always the 2 guys in the band. And then I'll look at other bands or I'll hear other stories about, we all hate this guy. And, this guy never does anything to help out and he doesn't do his part. I mean, I'm so grateful. And it just brings up that everlong conversation of, how do you find the right people? And I don't know how you do, because we didn't know it was the right people. We just fell into it, and then it felt right. You know what I mean?
That's a really good question. How do you find the right bandmates? I don't have an answer for this either. I don't know that there is one, although I think part of it is identifying when either when you have exactly the right person or exactly the wrong person, and
figure it out.
Acknowledging that, like, okay, this is great. Wait a minute, this is poison. This person can't be here. anymore. And like I said, there have been bands in the past that I've been in where I can look back and be like, oh, look at that. I poisoned that well. Like
I was the one. Yeah.
That was me. Like it's good that I'm not in that band anymore.
Well, it's like, remember the video games, like the Madden games back in the day where you could build a player, like a custom player, and it would have 10 categories, and you only had so many points you could work with. So you could load one up with 1 million, and then the rest you don't have any left for.
You don't have any left.
Like that. I think it's like if you're building the perfect musician, skill level cannot be 100. You can't
spend all your points on skill level.
All that. So, but you don't want somebody that doesn't have any skills. So you find that slightly above average, maybe, because they can get better at that. And then, then how important is the hang? Like you're spending so much downtime with these people that you got to like them. I mean, you can't spend it all on likability and then you don't have anything left for talent. Or, what are the other ones? Maybe professionalism, like cleanliness, timeliness, how well off they are in their normal life.
That's true.
They depend on this.
Do they have reliable transportation? Right?
Yes.
Like I remember I was in a band. We were trying out bass players. I was not a decision maker. Right? Mm-hmm. I was a band member, but not the band leader. And I'll never forget, we had like 5 bass players that we were auditioning this one day at our guitar player, who was the band leader's house. And at the end of the day, we were talking through things. And I'm like, oh, well, I like that second guy. Like, he seemed pretty good. And our guitar player, Keith, was like, yeah, but did you see his car? And I'm like, well, I think I helped him, get his stuff out of it. He's like, that car won't make it to gigs this year. Mm-hmm. And I was like,
I hate thinking that way, but you got to, right?
I'm like, look at that. And he was right. It was like, oh yeah, I don't want to be at the gig and get the phone call. It can happen to any of us that our car breaks down.
Of course.
And it will. And if it hasn't, it will. If it has, it will again, right?
Yes.
But, if you think it's definitely going to happen real soon, and it does, and you don't have any reason to think that this is a temporary scenario. It's like, oh yeah, sorry, my car, my reliable car is just getting new tires put on it, so I'm driving this beater that I own, or whatever. It's like, okay, well that's cool, but yeah.
Well, maybe another one too is like gear. How good your gear is. Like, I don't want to say that that's a number one priority, but maybe if you had to rate me, like back in the day, my gear was probably pretty low. I was not much of a gearhead guy, but you got to have good equipment. You got to have the ability to see when you need new things and to upgrade this. And I very much turned into a gearhead because of this band, but that was something that maybe was lower on my my rating scale when I first started joining this band. Because I come from the indie world, where like cool means bad. Like bad gear means, well, it's cool. What this looks like.
But it's cool if your gear looks like vintage in the right scenario. Like you can have like a guitar that's super worn, or a snare drum that's clearly seen more road than anybody else. That's cool. But the stuff needs to be reliable. Like you got to be able to plug in that guitar
sound good.
and have it work. Well, the sound, that's one part. But the other part is just like, are the electronics reliable, or are we going to get to the gig and have, because, and spend an extra 30 minutes at sound check trying to figure out why your guitar can't plug in reliably, or the snare strainer falls off, or the bass drum pedal falls apart, all of these things.
And that's the ability to have those conversations, right? Our singer, guitar player, Mason, is an incredible singer, incredible guitar player, but he used to play. I'm not a guitar guy, so somebody can go back in photos and see what kind of guitars they are. But he played these amazing sounding guitars that came out of tune every song. And we were playing as a trio back then. That's when we were trying to get into these new towns. And so after every single song, we spent 2 to 3 minutes tuning Mason's guitar. And so we finally we made a good thing out of it, because actually we started doing these things called tuning songs, where maybe me and Corey would like start playing a song, and then I would rap something, and then Mason would start going, and then boom. That's how Gangster's Paradise actually came about into our set list. It was just by mistake, just for fun. But we had to sit him down one day and go, you're ruining the show. Like, you're ruining any momentum that we ever get from any song that we play.
Yep.
You've got to get new guitars. And so, he went on a journey and
Yeah.
has since bought 1 million guitars and settled on something that he plays. Again, I'm not a guitar player. He's got these Jacksons now that have like the locking mechanisms.
The stuff that's built for pros to use because they also need it to not go out of tune all the time. Right.
So yeah, you got to be able to have those conversations to be like, your gear's not cutting it. You really need to buy something new. And I was always the guy that would buy the middle of the road stuff.
Yep.
Full well knowing that in 3 months I would upgrade to the pro level. But it's like just buy the pro level. Just buy it now. And I was not like that, and now I'm like that because
you learn to be
conversations. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, you want it. Well, I mean, right. You don't want to impose on your bandmates for sure. And as a bandmate, I don't want you imposing on me. These delays. Things will happen, of course, the one-offs. But when it's happening every gig, it's a problem. But it's also like it sucks for me if I've got a piece of gear that doesn't set up immediately, quickly, exactly the way I need it to. I replace it or I figure it out because I want to be able to get to the gig and get set up as efficiently as possible because sometimes you don't have time to like get rolling when the gig starts. So
that's the truth.
Yeah. This is a good thing. I feedback at giggabpodcast.com, folks. I want it. Like, what do you look at in a bandmate and when you're finding new bandmates, but then just having experienced bandmates over the years, folks, what have you learned and what would you change with the next ones if you could, right? Like that's, and I don't know if I've said this enough on the show, but it is often that we will obscure either the name or the location or both of a listener question that comes in so that even though your bandmates listen, we make sure that they don't, So
it's like the anonymous feature in these groups now that you can do that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. But we don't even say that it's anonymous. Like we will always just assign a different name and something else so that you're not even left. Because when we say, oh yes, Mr. or Mrs. We don't know X from any town, USA, that piques your curiosity. It's like, wait, is that my bandmate? But if it's like, Tim from Des Moines wrote in and said, like nobody thinks about it. It's like, oh, I live in Miami. Like, there's no problem. So,
well, it's a good way to hear those stories though, and be like, is this me? Because like you want to see how you react to that.
Yes.
Like, if this is a negative thought, and you're like, oh man, I've done that before.
That might be me.
That might be important to listen to.
Yes. I have a scenario that I probably shouldn't talk about, but I'm gonna. Only because
they're turning
up
their volume right now.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Well, it's only because it's like a developing thing. I occasionally do some theater work, and I always wind up being very particular about which shows I pick and how they fit into my calendar. Like, I will not pick a show that is 6 performances a week, even for 2 weeks. I wouldn't do that, but certainly not some 5 to 8 week run because that just doesn't fit into my world. Keeps me from doing other gigs, but it also keeps me from like living a life and having a job and those sorts of things. So I love the shows that are that happen. The term is in rep, right, with another show. So it's if the theater does 6 performances a weekend, if there's 2 shows that are in rep with each other, one might do 3 shows in a weekend, and then you have a week off and things like that. So I really like those kinds of things. I had 2 of those types of shows booked for this year, and I needed one of the performances coming up in this spring. I needed a sub for an afternoon show that I have another gig booked, which is fine. It's all good. There is a list of drummers that this theater is finds acceptable, like has already passed muster, because if you're going to bring in a sub, it like the powers that be need to bless that person. Right. Well, it's like, oh no, I got this guy. I mean, you can have that conversation, but it's better if it's like, it's this person and they're on your list and they've done shows there before. Like that's helpful. And so I go to the list. I already know the people on the list because we call each other to sub. And I ask one guy and he's like, no, I'm not available. I'm like, okay, fine, no problem. And I ask the next guy and he's like, I I am playing that show. And I was like, okay, like, well, this is interesting now. You and I should talk, like, because it's not your fault or my fault that this thing's double booked. Like, we're not the people in charge here, you know? So, we reached out to the theater, and the theater's like, oh, no. Like, Dave is the one we want for that show. We're sorry that this happened. But, and then while we're having this conversation, I said, okay, so are you cool? Like, you're not pissed that they bumped you from this? He's like, no. Like, I get it. It's fine. No problem. I'm like, can you sub for me on this afternoon? He's like, yes, I would love to. I'm like, whew.
I was planning on being there anyway.
Yes, it turns out it's open on my calendar still. And then he asked me, hey, just to make sure there's no other problems, you weren't thinking of doing, you hadn't talked to them about this other show. And I was like, yup, they booked me for that one too.
No.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah. So that's the part of it that's developing. I have no idea. I told the theater, I was like, hey, look, I don't want to take money out of this guy's pocket. Either give him all the shows or split it. Give him one, give me one. You pick. I truly don't care. I would love to play either one or both of these shows, but like, it's fine. Clearly somebody there double booked things. Take it out on me if you have to. It's totally fine. So
then it's a question of like, maybe there's a reason they don't want this guy, and then that changes your sub gig perhaps. Like, they're like,
don't know. Yep. They did bless him as a sub for this.
Okay.
So
then maybe they just, something happened. And
I don't know. That's the thing. I have learned, and this is true, more true in some theaters than other, but it is true in every theater. There is the drama department that happens because it's theater. Yes. And if you thought that being in a rock band came with drama, you were right. It does. And then we go from beginner level drama to pro drama. Yep. And so I have learned playing theater, and I've been playing theater gigs since I was in high school, that if you've ever heard me say Dave bang drum, that phrase grew out of the way I deal with theater shows. It is, I show
attachment, nothing. I show up and I play.
I play. You will get
I don't talk to anyone.
Nope. I'll talk because we're hanging out. Like, it's fine. Like, it'd be weird if I just like sat in the corner. But as soon as like the drama and the politics come up, it's like, oh, so anyway, I gotta go later. Yep.
Dude, I played in marching band and pep band and everything in high school. And then my senior year, they asked me to play drums for like whatever the spring production was for the drama club. I was like, oh, sure. Dude, yeah, that sounds awesome. Let's play some drums. And I'll never forget, like, going backstage like mid-show and seeing all these kids that, like that I saw in high school on an everyday basis that you might consider like nerdy and quiet. And then like watching them, like, they were like full on makeout sessions, and they were like, ah, and it was just like over the top. Like, they were the rulers of this world. And I was like, oh man, where am I? This is insane. I've never seen anything like this. It was wild. I loved it.
It's a different world. And it's great that, like, as is true everywhere in life, there is a spot for everyone to be themselves. And that is a spot for lots of, and I learned I could be myself there too, but
it was amazing. I got to float in. I didn't really have a spot, so I floated into all the spots, and I loved it for different reasons. I was in the band and theater world. I was in the sports world. I was in the jock, like, cool kid world, so I enjoyed being a part of all that in high school. And even today, I feel like I'm sort of that guy that's like, yeah, whatever. I can go into that group or that group or that group. What do you want to do?
It taught me. I'm an introvert in that I recharge my social batteries without other humans around. But I learned, because of experiences like that and doing podcasts and all that stuff, I learned how not to be shy. Yes. It doesn't mean that it's my default. My default would be to sit home on the couch and do nothing. Yes. But I know how to be and even enjoy being out with people. I just, after a certain amount of time, it's like, well, now I got to go home and recharge. It's fine. Got to go. Bye.
I used to be the guy that's like, I have more friends than anyone. I know more people than everyone. And it just slowly changes. The older you get, the more you're just like, no, I got these friends and, I don't really want to go out tonight. And I mean, even just take the band, for example, we played in Lake Okoboji. It's this big party lake that we play at every year. We play once in the winter. They have a thing called winter games. And once in the summer where we play in this outdoor venue. But in the old days, we used to go out to the bars afterwards and like stay up till 4 or 5 in the morning, see everybody. Now we over the microphone, we're like, we'll see you at the bars after this. And then we go to the hotel.
Don't.
I mean, we go right to the hotel. And I think it's just a matter of this change in life. We all have kids now. So these precious moments of being away from home, we miss our family, but also it's a chance to get 8 hours of sleep without interruption. And shoot, last weekend, me and the singer woke up. We both like jumped out of bed at 7 a.m. going, oh, cool. Nothing. I'm not home right now. Nobody needs me right now. Right back to sleep for like 2 hours uninterrupted. It was amazing.
That's great. Yeah, I remember that.
You remember those days?
More for me with like conferences and trade shows for the computer business that I have. It was the same kind of thing. It was like, oh, wait a minute, like I felt like I was like cheating. It was like I'm cheating the system here. My wife's home with the kids and I get to sleep all night. Like this is amazing.
You're working.
Oh, look, I mean, it was all fine, but it was like, is this fair? Is this okay?
It feels weird, doesn't it?
It feels weird. Yeah, exactly.
Of course, you miss being being home is like my favorite thing in the entire world right now with this little girl running around and like. Yep. But I got to go make some. The reason I'm here is to make some money so that on Monday and Tuesday I can just sit at home and do nothing and hang out. So that's cool. Different priorities. Yeah,
it's exactly yes. It's opportunity cost and priorities and all of those things. It's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. We had to have a conversation, maybe even to transition for you. We had to have a long conversation about the band got offered 2 fly-out dates back to back. And, we live in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. We do not have a direct flight to anywhere of meaning. We go to like Chicago, Denver, Dallas, and then it's like you got to connect from there. And so we got scheduled for these 2 fly-out dates where it's a 3-day event. We got to fly in the day before, perform the show that day, fly out the next day. So right now we're scheduled to leave on a Tuesday, to play on a Wednesday, to come home on a Thursday, to then the 2 days later on a Sunday do the same thing to another place. Sunday fly out, play Monday, come home on Tuesday. And 5-6 years ago it was just like, oh yeah, of course, go do it. Now it's the conversation of, well, I'm going to be gone for a long time now. Is everything okay at everyone's home for this? And the money trumps everything ultimately when you talk about this.
Yes.
Our wives are so cool that the experience of it is still incredible too. For anybody out there that's never done like a fly out gig, it's one of the coolest things you'll ever do. You will feel like a rock star more than you ever have in your life. But the logistics, the preparation, the time away that goes into these type of gigs is insane. So yeah, we had to have that conversation at home just recently about that.
Yeah. Is this okay? Absolutely. So I definitely want to dig into this. Like how talk me through one of these. And if you don't mind talking about the money, I think that would be, because if my guess is if you look at the budget without seeing the expense list for this, you'd think, oh my God, look how much money you're making. It's like, well, there's four people in how many? Well, talk us through how many people in hotels and planes and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll pick you this one that's coming up here. It's actually quite insane because you view it from a perspective of us and how much money they're going to spend to bring us there when we're going to a very populated city that I'm pretty sure has a band that is equally as good, if not better than us, that probably has all their own gear, that doesn't need to stay in a hotel, that can be there and play the show and leave. So I don't know how. I mean, this is the advantage of being on a very reputable booking company, is a lot of times these corporate events, you got to think about it when you're getting booked for a corporate event. They just don't know anything. They just have somebody that's like, we need a band, and I heard this agency has good bands, so we'll just tell them that we need them, and who cares what the cost is, because that's how they operate.
Yes.
And
well, they want a turnkey solution, yes. And so it's call the booking agent. Here's what we need on this day, what we want, and tell me a number. And that's it. I don't want to, I have a million other things to do. You solve this problem. And it's worth something. Yeah.
And I think there's something special about it too. Like, for instance, this one that we play every year, there's something special in it, I think, for them, that they're like, oh, we fly this is our favorite band from Iowa, and we fly them out to play this really. So there's something to it. But if you do the math, like let's talk this one in particular that's coming up. You've got 5 people, because we bring our sound guy with us. That's very important. We're saying this sound guy has to come with us. We don't know who you have there and what you're providing, but he's coming with.
Got it.
So we've got 5 round trip plane tickets. Again, not easy. One direct. We got at least one stop everywhere. That's $3,500 that they are paying for. You say you pay for it. We'll book it and send you the bill. You reimburse us.
Yeah, you reimburse. Sure. Yeah, yeah.
Then we need 5 hotel rooms. We're not bunking up. We need 5 hotel rooms in a nice place. One for each person for 2 nights.
Yep.
Because we're going to be there 2 nights. So that's $2,500 that they will pay the tab for.
Yep.
We've started to ask for, we always ask for a per diem anyway, anywhere we go. But because there are 2 different days now involved, we've started asking for that per diem every day for every person. So now you've got a $500 a day per diem per person for 5 people per 3 days.
Yep.
That's $7,500 that they're like, here you go. We arrive. They go, there you go. Then you've got miscellaneous transportation. You've got to hire companies to pick you up from the airport, take you to where you need to go, take you back. We're not going to mess around with Uber. So that's maybe another $500 plus. The beauty of this is that we don't take anything with us. So you go to these big, large metro areas. You have like your SIRs.
I was going to say, do you use SIR? Yeah.
Oh my God, they're amazing. And they basically give you a menu. Like, it's like you're at a restaurant. They're like, what drum set would you like? And what sizes would you like? And what cymbals would you like? And you say, I want this. And then you arrive and it is fully set up for you with a guy dedicated to help you out in anything that you need.
We used to use SIR for when we did all those Macworld All-Star Band gigs.
Yes.
And it's so much better to use SIR than to, even if you have like local friends that could loan you gear, because we did that too. And it sucks because you're like, well, it's a local friend. Yeah, I'm paying him, but I'll help, I'll do it. And that, it's like you're getting his drum set, not I want that Yamaha Birch kit tuned this way with 3 cymbal stands, not just your 2 crappy cymbal stands, like it makes a huge difference. So yeah, what are you paying SIR?
I don't know the exact cost on that. I mean, that's paid by the purchaser. So we tell them what they want. They send the bill to the purchaser. My guess is like, what, $5,000? I don't know.
No, I mean,
maybe not that much. $2,000-3,000.
We used to do for a 7-piece band. Well, there were 7 members, but 2 of them shared. So let's say for a 5-piece band, right? It would cost me for a 1-night gig. It would cost me $1,200 maybe. I think was SIR. So I mean, but that was 10 years ago. So yeah, $2,500 is probably what it is today. Yeah,
maybe $2,500, and that comes with the personnel to be there.
With the the $1,200 was with the personnel. And
the sound system, obviously, right? Like that.
The club had the sound system, right? That's right.
These are private events, so these are like ballroom stuff.
Yeah, so you're probably right. There's $5,000 worth of equipment rental and crew to facilitate it all. Yeah.
And then obviously on top of that, we need our performance fee. So
that's on top of your per diem.
Yes,
so you're getting a $500 per diem per band member, right? That's what you're per person per day plus a performance fee.
Yeah,
like it.
And then I mean, you add that up. That's $25,000.
I'll add it up. I got it here. Yeah. $2,500.
I didn't say what the performance fee is. People can figure that out. I guess,
you didn't. Yeah. So it's $19,000 before your performance fee.
Yep. And so if you think about it from that perspective, that seems outrageous to spend this kind of money when you could just give a local band probably like $3,000, say show up with your gear and play. But that's the idea though, that you have to think about in this corporate world.
You got to think bigger. And if you don't think bigger, and if you don't price it bigger, they will turn you down because they will think something is wrong.
Weird, right? That's such a weird way to think about it.
But it is true.
Yep.
You and I would do the same thing, right? Like if we were buying a snare drum, right? In fact, I've been looking at, I want a piccolo snare, largely because that one theater I mentioned, that double booked a couple of people, may or may not have double booked a couple of people. We don't know. A piccolo snare sounds much better in that room than any other snare. It's bizarre. You wouldn't think that was the case, but that's the thing, right? And I don't have a piccolo snare. I've borrowed them. I've used other people's, and I was like, I got to get a piccolo snare, but I'm probably only ever going to use it in this theater. Right. So certainly I could find a piccolo snare for $1,500. I could probably find one for $15,000 if I wanted, but you can find a decent, like a name brand, reliable, known to be reliable drum for probably $300, right? Yeah. Like that's about what you'd pay for like a Pearl or, something like that. On Amazon, I can find a piccolo snare for $44. And instantly my thought is there's something wrong with it.
Yes.
Right? But it
might be fine. I don't know. Maybe somebody stole a truckload of piccolo snares and they're like, what,
it might be fine.
Whatever.
Yeah. And the same thing with those microphones that, there's the $50 Behringer that is the clone of the $200 microphone, and they sound just as good as one another. So it's like, which way do you go? But I'm shying away from this $44 drum when I probably should just order it. It's Amazon. I can return it.
You're going to be fine. Yeah.
It's going to be fine. Yeah. Do I want to carry it around and throw it around in the car and have it fall apart? No, because it will. But, if I know where it's going to be, $44, even with what the theater pays, that's less than I'll make at one performance.
Yeah, exactly. But, and that's to your testament too. Like, if these corporate events are expecting high dollar stuff, then you got to charge that. But we ask ourselves the question for every show, going into every year. We tell our booking agent, as long as we can each individually walk away with this much money at a minimum dollar, you can book the show. Yeah. And so there's never a conversation like, if you have a date off, you put it in the calendar. If it's not, our agent gets a request for this day, the money's good, and nobody says off, they book it. There's no conversation whatsoever.
So these dates just show up without them you've already put your blackout dates in, and then that's that.
And that's the thing about corporate events is this is going to be, you have to say, we need to make this much money or else, because it is a long trip. You're away from home. The funness of it is so cool to like, oh, we're flying to play a gig, but at the same time, it's still a corporate event. It's still going to be terrible. Like,
yes,
nobody's going to care that we're there.
Nope.
And you're spending all this time in airports, so you still have to just set that price for whatever gig it is, whether it's a corporate event, a bar gig, or whatever, and say that unless you reach this dollar amount, we are okay not playing the show. And I think a lot of people need to think that mentality when they're pricing their band out. There's obviously those special occasions that says, oh my God, Taylor Swift wants you to open and
we'll do it for free.
$5,000. Yeah. Like, fine. Okay. We'll do it, but that's where your agent or whoever's in charge of your band should understand that unless there's something weird about this, I'm either booking it or not booking it with no conversation.
We've already laid the ground rules. They have autonomy now to operate within that. Yeah, the wedding band that fell apart. It might come back together. Yeah. But that wedding band that fell apart, we had that absolutely in the band. It was $350 a person for a not flyaway. This was like, within a 2 hour, maybe 90. Yep. I think it was a 2 hour drive from home. $350 per person. To be clear on this,
Oh yeah, I was with you.
Yeah, I know you were with me. I was just making sure everybody's with us. $350 per person net. Like after we would factor in fuel, at all. So it'd be net. You are getting back home with $350 after expenses, and a lot of the gigs were more than that, of course, but. For the few times where we got something that, or Gary or the guitar player who led the band got something that would only have paid us say $250, he would reach out and say, "Hey, here's why I would like to do this, but it's less than it's less than the bar, so this is how we deal with that." Yeah.
Well, and for anybody out there that isn't maybe in charge of booking, that is putting their hat into the fly out corporate world, just understand that that these fly-in dates require a lot more work than any other gig that you will ever do. The preparation, the making sure that everybody's triple checking their gear list and saying, these are the things I need. And what they've provided is, because you'll arrive at that gig and they're like, well, you didn't ask for that. And then what happens, coordinating.
Yeah. Drummers, don't forget to ask for a stool.
A stool, a drum key, just like the little things.
Yes.
Just ask for it. And in dealing with these timelines, you've all dealt with weddings and corporate events and their small, short windows of times. I mean, everything's amplified for these kind of shows, arriving a day early, having a backup plan if planes don't do what they're supposed to. So
yeah, there's
just
weather.
Understand that you do need to ask for a lot more money, because you are worth it. And the amount of time you're going to spend, the amount of time away you're going to be from home, these are worth it. And
it needs to be worth it to you. And
yes.
If you can't yet wrap your head around that, like if this is your first gig that's, paying high dollar, then don't worry about it seeming like it's more than you think you're worth. Put yourself as best you can in the shoes of the person who's hiring you.
Yep.
They wanted that turnkey operation where you just magically appear and play the gig and leave, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what they want. And so think about what it's worth to them and help that justify it in your head that, this is a fair wage to.
Well, and interestingly enough, that actually kind of leads into something else. I think I talked to you last time about how we were going in the studio.
Yes.
To record. Some
like basic tracks. Yeah.
No, we just ran through our entire set and individually tracked everything in a studio so that we now have stems of everything.
Right. Stem tracks. Yeah. But you're playing all these to a click, right?
Yeah. So our entire show is to a click.
Got it. Okay.
It will always be that way. It's always that way. And so we knew that if we went in the studio, we recorded everything to our normal Ableton click session, that now we'll have stems of everything. And that in the future, there may be a day that the singer like breaks his arm and now he can't play guitar and we need guitar in the show, or there might be a day where the keyboard player can't make the show but we need his parts and we want it in there. We are nowhere near vain enough to think that if someone is standing in the crowd going, well, I hear keyboards, where are the keyboard player? Who cares? I don't care about that guy at all. We're here.
No, that's not who you are. That's not your target market, right? I mean,
you're correct.
Some bands, that is absolutely the target market, right?
Yes.
Where we had Brad Maddox on last week, right? And he talked about how because of COVID, when they started, I think it was that Florence and the Machine tour, they had to get a sub guitar player who only played 80% of the show, but thankfully they had stem tracks, and so they played the other thing. That works for Florence and the Machine. He also did sound for Rush. That would not have worked for Rush, right? But because the target market is different, and you know that going in, it's totally okay. Yep.
Well, and so we're glad we did it, because there's possibility of two of these shows, one of them being one of these flyout dates that we would not be able to take, because it's possible the bass player may not be able to make one of those shows.
Whoa.
And so,
so the future is now.
Had we not done this, we wouldn't be able to take the show. But we're just waiting on their clarification for them to say, yeah, we don't care. Who cares how many members you have? Just make the show sound good. And if they say then I will be inserting a channel full of bass tracks that have already been pre-recorded that will be ready to go, and we'll play along to it as if there was a guy standing next to us playing bass guitar. So the plot thickens. I will have more to talk about next time.
Yeah. So if I want to tug on this thread too, because this is interesting. Will you rehearse without the bass player, but with the tracks, so that you have confidence going on stage that this is actually going to work out?
Well, unfortunately, we will not be able to rehearse or even have a show prior to this.
Oh man!
And okay, so me being the guy that over stresses about everything, I will 100% sit down in my basement and play along to every single song of these once I've finished it, and put the bass in there and make sure that it's doing what it needs to do.
Yeah,
I have to, or else I will be a wreck going into the show if I don't know that it's where it's supposed to be. But yeah, we will not be able to play along to that to that at all without a bass player, other than in the moment, here we go, probably not even a sound check. So we're gonna do it. But that's the comfort level that we've built in this band. Like, we can't, I don't know if I could do this with anyone else other than these guys who I've been playing with this many shows for this long, you know?
Yep.
And I have trust that they will do their
they'll do their homework too. Exactly. Sure. Yes, of course. Right. But still, like, there are dice being rolled, and I love that. I love that.
And I guess might as well do it at a corporate event where nobody's going to be paying attention or caring, I guess.
You know what?
I don't know.
I mean, if the bass were to drop out, let's say, right?
Let's just pretend.
And I'm going to knock on wood for you.
Good.
You know, but let's say the bass drops out. Okay. Well, you know, there's still drums going. Mm-hmm. There's still somebody singing, and I put that in the reverse order. It's, you know, there's still a singer.
Good.
That's most important. Drums, probably second most important, because if the drums were to drop out, that would be super noticeable.
Yes.
Right? You know, people would be like, what happened here? You know, but other than that, for a corporate gig, like, you're kind of okay. Like, you have some instrument playing chords, which you've got a keyboard and guitar. So you guys will know. And that one guy in the crowd will know and be like, oh, this is interesting. But that one guy in the crowd will probably be like, this is interesting, not, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Unless it turns out he's the one that stroked the check.
Yes, correct. And that is, again, why you always do your due diligence. We brought this up to them ahead of time that said, my friends, you hired us for this, but we may not be able to provide what you asked for. Are we okay? Is everything fine? You don't just show up and be like, I thought you had 4. Well, the one guy couldn't make it. Oh, okay.
Oh, no. No surprises. That's another thing. Like, you can show up to a club gig, you know, that you play this club, you know, 6 times a year. You show up and it's like, oh yeah, well, we're confident that we can put on a good show, but yeah, our keyboard player can't make it tonight. So, but it's going to be fine. Yeah. It's okay. Fine. They know you. They trust you. It's all good. You can surprise a club with that. I would never surprise a wedding with anything like that. Corporate gig. Like, they know what they hired. Now, they might be okay with it, to you know, to your point, but you reach out in advance to the event planner and spell out, okay, we have a problem and a solution.
Yes. The key is that you follow it with a solution. And that's why we did this whole thing. Cause, like, the stakes get so high that what if you have to make the call that goes, we don't have a bass player, so we can't play your wedding that's been planned for 2 years.
Yep. And by the way, it's 2 days from now. Yes. Sorry. Like, that's
where we can say, hey, you know that guy Corey, he's pretty cool. I know you like him a lot. I know he sings a couple songs, but he can't be here tonight. But we are going to put on the exact same show that we planned, because here's what we have planned. We have the bass tracks. Everything's fine.
Here's the backup plan. Yep.
Yeah. So that's why we did it, just because stakes get, I mean, to your point, go back 10 years or 8 years ago when our singer got picked to be on The Voice. He had to go out to LA for 30 days and do his rehearsals with the band and get ready for the live show. And so we had a gig in a local bar in the middle of this, and first of all, we couldn't tell anyone where he was contractually. So guess what we did? We just brought in another singer and guitar player who just was like, hey, what's up? And he just he just sang the songs and played with us. This is back when nobody would have known or cared.
The stakes were lower.
Nobody knew. Nobody cared. In fact, some people were like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that Mason can play the piano too. It's like, well, he can't, because that wasn't Mason.
He's not here. That's right. Well, but there's a lesson there for everybody too. If you do have a sub, either say nothing about it. That my default recommendation would be, don't acknowledge it at all. If you choose to acknowledge it, make it realize that it is now part of the show, right? Like, if you're going to talk about it during the show, it is part of the show, and make it be a showman about it. Like, isn't this amazing? We have this guy. If it were me, I'd probably let 6 to 8 songs go by before I knew how things were going, before I told anybody on the other side of the fourth wall what was happening. Because if it's kind of train wrecky, we're not going to acknowledge why. Nope.
Move along.
But if it's move along, that's right. Yeah.
Well, and don't you think that's true for like technical difficulties on stage? Like
technical difficulties,
anything.
absolutely.
Just don't say anything. Most people don't know if you're having a problem with one of your amps cutting in and out or whatever. Most people just don't know. And if you tell them, sorry, we're having technical difficulties here, then all of a sudden everybody's like, well, wait, what's going on? What's happening? I want to see what's the, if you don't say anything, they don't know any better.
No, usually. I mean, if it's something dramatic, like, okay, but that's the thing. No, there's doing theater work, you just even by osmosis, watching actors get coached, you learn some things. And there's a very basic, like 101 thing that is taught to anyone who works on stage in a theater. And that is, if you drop something, pick it up. You are being watched by everyone. And I've seen it happen. And I remember watching a high school performance where someone was like messing with pills on the table, right? And one of the pills dropped and fell on the floor. And I know they knew it because I knew it from, 100 feet away.
Yep.
And at that moment, the only thing I can do is look at the stupid pill on the floor. I'm not listening to the dialogue. I'm definitely not watching what the actors are doing. You're super distracted by this thing. And it's like, how are they ignoring this? Why are they ignoring it? I know why they're trying to pretend it didn't happen. That wasn't supposed to happen.
Oh, no.
Right. But if that person had just picked it up, like you
it
would.
Was part of the show.
Yes. And it becomes part of that performance. Yeah. It's just like, yes, this is how it worked. Because that's what you would do. If you were counting out pills on a table and one fell on the floor, you just pick it up in the middle of your conversation. It's no big deal. Those kinds. I had a drumstick fall off the drum kit. That last theater show that I did, there was a moment where it was like a show about a band. It's a show called Passing Strange. And there was one song in the show that I did not play drums for. One of the actors played drums for it. And it was really interesting watching somebody else that's not a drummer bash on my drums, right? But as that song ends, I have to like go and sit down at the drums and play the next song, and he put my sticks down one night and they like rolled all over the stage.
Yep.
And certainly I could have just grabbed new sticks from the kit. But first of all, it's like, somebody's going to trip over those things out there because they're not expecting them rolling around. And secondly, everyone in the theater sees exactly what just happened. The drums are upstage center. This is not hidden or obscured in any way. So I just took a different route to my drum stool and grabbed the two sticks that were rolling around on the stage and sat down and played. It's like, what else are you supposed to do? Like, yeah.
We always have a funny joke that whether people know it or not, if someone, let's say Mason's playing a guitar solo and hits like a wrong note or a wrong chord, Corey will turn around and go over to his amp and pretend like he's messing with knobs on his amp and then turn around and go, hey, you're good. And Mason will go, okay, thanks. Like most musicians will be like, that's not how that works. But a lot of times the people in the crowd have no clue.
They don't know.
At all.
That's great. I like that. Yeah, but
hold on a second. Let me hit this amp here. Oh, yep, you're good. And like overly acknowledge to him, be like, hey, I fixed what happened to you right there.
Yep. Yep. No, that's the thing. Yeah. If you're going to acknowledge it again, just know that you have now made it part of the show.
Yep.
Right. So if whatever happened made itself part of the show, know that too. Like, if the vocals cut out during, a chorus or something because there was some technical issue. All right. Well, that's something that everyone knows, so you're going to have to sort of deal with that and address it or not, but it became part of the show. But no, whether it's part of the show or not. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I like it. It's good advice, man. It's good. Well, as always, there are a million things that I still on the list that I would love to keep talking about, but which means, we'll have to have you back. So
I love, obviously I like to talk, so I'm sure your audience has figured that out.
I've recognized this. Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I'm just like, oh, people need to hear what I have to say. And it's like, do they really, man? I'm working so hard. That's my New Year's resolution, is to just like maybe talk a little slower, maybe like just be a little bit better about what information I'm putting in the world, but it hasn't worked out. We're 45 days in, it hasn't worked out very well.
Yeah, it hasn't. I've made that resolution. Well, I make that resolution every time I come home from like being somewhere where I talked. and realized that I just said a bunch of stupid stuff, and maybe it would have been better if I said less.
Yeah,
And
just maybe talk less.
Talk less. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
When is Paul coming back? Is he like the next episode?
He is. Paul is on Monday. Yep. Yeah.
It's going to be fun because, like, by the way, I think it's gone pretty well. Have you felt that having all these different guests has been a fun experience and listeners have enjoyed it?
It's fantastic, and I like there are a few of you that are, at least in my head, in the regular rotation. I mean, with you, it's obvious to the listeners that you are, but like Dallas Corbin, my friend Dave Brunyak, he's going to be in the rotation a little bit more too. Billy will be in the rotation, and there's a couple more that I think will kind of get mixed in. And in addition, I like having kind of the one-off guests, like we had Frank Warninger, the audiologist. Like, that was great. I wouldn't want that once a month, but like as a resource to tap. Having Brad last week, it was that kind of thing. A couple times a year is great. So yeah. No,
it's gonna be fun to hear what Paul has to say about it, and I know he's been listening, I'm sure, and just maybe how he feels it's going, if he misses it, kind of a thing. I bet he's gonna be pretty happy to be on and just to be like energized a little bit,
I mean, we still text all the time. It's not like I keep saying this because I know it's easy to assume that there was some FU moment. Yep. There was not. I mean, well, Paul and I have had a lot of FU moments over the years. We've been friends for decades. I say a lot. We've had a handful of them because it's how it works. It's how buddies kind of deal with stuff. But this was not one of the result of one of those. This truly was
a good thing.
This was just face value. Exactly as we told everybody. Paul's work schedule made it that he wasn't looking forward to doing the show. Yep. He always enjoyed doing the show. But the way the schedule worked out, it really became kind of a negative thing for him, and neither one of us wanted that. So that's where this came from. Was okay, and I'm thankful that he it not only has our friendship and the respect that comes along with that with me, but respects the show enough to give me his blessing to keep doing it. Because he and I created this together. If he had said, I don't want this to go on. If you want to do a music podcast, you got to do something else. Okay. I'd have been like, oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you think you would have started something new, or do you think you would have said, okay, that's good enough for a while?
I would have wanted to start something new. Whether I would have started something new or not I think I probably would have. I really enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
It keeps my head in the music world in a way that I've found, selfishly, I've found to be really helpful for me. And I know everybody who listens loves it too. Yeah. So like both of those things combined, I probably would have done something. I would have kept something going. But and I did. I mean, here we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I say it all the time. You and the rare few other really good music podcasts out there. It's every week. I look forward to when an episode pops up. It's just part of my weekly routine. So we're happy that you and everybody else keeps going, because that's what we need in our world.
Yeah, well, you're part of it, man. Like I am thankful that you help us keep going here. So you're part of the Gig Gab family. We're all part of the Gig Gab family. Yeah. Folks, feedback at giggabpodcast.com is where you will send in your questions, thoughts. If you've got an idea about somebody that we could have on the show, if you think you're someone that would be good to be on the show. Frank Wardinger, the audiologist, is a listener. He reached out to me. I had someone else booked that week. And in the course of 90 minutes, Frank reached out to me and said, I think I'd be great for the show. And 90 minutes later, the guy who I had booked for that Thursday's recording bailed on me, and it was like, opportunity knocks. That's right.
Yes, it does.
And it worked out great. Like, he was awesome.
That was awesome.
It was like, all right, cool. So, yeah. Where can people find you, Mike? What's the best place?
Just look up, I'll tell you what, look up my two big projects. Look up the Pork Tornadoes.
Yep.
Find us on any social media app, porktornadoes.com, or look up my podcast if you're looking for some movies to talk about. Classic movies, Confused Breakfast.
Awesome.
ConfusedBreakfast.com. Those are the two. Who cares about me? You're just going to see cat and baby photos on my Instagram. So just go look at my band and my podcast.
There you go. That's it. Thanks, Mike. This has been a blast, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing this. What a blast. What are, you got 3 words to share with everybody, man?
The Port Tornadoes?
How about always be performing?
Always be performing. I thought you were talking about some other 3 words.
And we're out. That's great.